Welcome to the Digital Forester Podcast, where we talk to foresters about how they are using digital technologies in their day-to-day forestry work. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Digital Forester Podcast. So today, I'm pleased to have Albrecht on our call from SKYLAB. So I believe I was talking to Albrecht. He said, yeah, just call me Albie. So I'll go with Albie. Albie, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. Thanks a lot, Kevin. Nice to meet you, and really good to be on this podcast. Yes, please call me Albie.
Albie, perfect. So where are you joining us this afternoon, this evening / I'm morning AM? Where are you calling from?
Well, I'm in beautiful gray Hamburg, northern Germany. That's my home. That's the headquarters of SKYLAB. And yeah, we have a nice and miserable January afternoon. It's 2 in the afternoon here.
Right. 8 a.m. here in Ottawa, Canada. And if I look out the window, well, we have blue skies, but I think it's minus 33 with the wind chill minus 37. So I'm not sure if that's better or worse than what you have. I might take your gloomy than what we have right now. So thanks for joining. I'm really excited to have this conversation. So you and I have never met.
Nope.
And obviously you're a leader in the technology space. I watch SKYLAB on social media and all the cool things you're doing, and obviously you have a great roster of logos, companies you're working with. But maybe introduce yourself first and your role within the company and what SKYLAB does at a high level, and then as we go through the podcast, we'll drill down in different themes and we'll go from there. So maybe introduce yourself to the listeners.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks, Kevin, for inviting me. It's I had hoped we would meet at some point, and now we're doing this in public, so that's great. Just a brief introduction of myself and SKYLAB. I guess we go into some detail later on, but I'm a biologist by training, but I see myself as much as a biologist as an entrepreneur. So this is my first company. I founded SKYLAB in 2017. Before that, I founded and built and then sold a company that was busy in climate protection projects around the world, more in the chemical industry, but we also looked at forestry at that point. But yeah, with the onset of drone technology and easy to use photogrammetry software, I felt it's time to look at a nature-based application of these technologies. So we looked at some possibilities, and forestry was kind of the open white plain where nobody had really done much of this work before. So that's where we focused on very quickly, and that's where we are.
So interesting. I can't say I've met very many biologists that have successfully exited by selling a company. So tell me more about that background. Like, obviously there's an entrepreneurial flame, if you will, there, but how did that come about? Like through childhood experiences or parents, or maybe tell me more about that.
Yeah, well, I guess my father was an entrepreneur of sorts. I mean, he was employed, but in a medium-sized German enterprise, and he ran the company for 20 years. And to me, it seemed as a child, it seemed my father has his own company and he's very busy. He's away a lot, and but I admired him for that, and maybe some of that entrepreneurial spirit has caused me to feel and act like an entrepreneur. I guess my motivation was really I was really interested in biology, but I always knew I was never going to be a scientist. I was not going to work and live in a lab. Although it really fascinates me, it's not me. I knew that, and business also interested me. So I really wanted to seek that. Where can I combine this? And then back at university. So here's a lesson for you kids out there: you learn something for life at university. I heard the word emissions trading for the first time. This was in 96. So here I thought, okay, there's something that's trying to solve an environmental problem with a market solution. And this was about SOx and NOx trading in the US and some fishing rights somewhere else. So, and then I looked around and read around. I didn't Google around because that wasn't there, of course. So and emissions trading was something that stuck in my head, and I really wanted to know more of that, and then developed a business idea in that field. And that didn't fly, so I found a company that employed me to become an emissions broker. So finding project-based emission reduction solutions, and linking that up with companies back in the early 2000s, before even the Kyoto Protocol was live, to offset their emissions in expectation of some rules to come. And that was really an exciting time, and already global undertaking. And I worked for that company, a New York-based company, but I worked then in London and then moved to Hamburg, worked for them, and built kind of, I guess I was part of a group of people who were very involved in building the rules for emissions trading in Europe and under the project-based solutions. So, and out of that, I started my first company back in 2004. And we were specialized on reducing laughing gas emissions from the chemical industry. So that was our project specialty, and we developed all the methodology and technology around it, found the companies to implement the technology, and then get the project registered, and verifications, issuance of credits, and trading of the credits as well. So very exciting, pioneering times, and I'm seeing a lot of that coming back now. So that's really exciting.
So it sounds like you've always, again, just a keyword got you going. And I laugh when you said, I would have used Google. It's probably dating us because, I was the web 1.0 where, the Google did not exist back then. And today, when I think about it, with the amount of information, knowledge, podcasts out there, arguably there's no reason why a young person can't get a good jump start by just doing their work and doing some research online. So it sounds like you've always been blazing the trail. So connect me to the forestry side, like obviously emissions, and you're touching on carbon, but obviously with SKYLAB, with AI, and then like data analytics and drones data. Like, what was that another spark that came about, or just maybe your network, or tell me more about that?
Well, I guess there's a couple of connections. I mean, forestry always interested me. Some part of my family has owned forest for, as we do in Germany, for many hundreds of years. So. My closer family doesn't, but a couple of my uncles. So forestry was always there in my family. So there is a fascination for that. But also in that previous company I just described, forestry projects were always was something we wanted to do, but we lacked there was no methodology, and we lacked the technology to reliably monitor forestry carbon uptake. So the classic, and maybe here's another lesson. So the classic forest inventories were seen as too, not precise enough on a stand level, because that's what you're looking at, smaller scale project, at least at that time. And the sampling based inventories weren't seen as reliable and transparent and impartial enough. So and then when drone technology and photogrammetry and remote sensing became so much better nowadays, I saw all that came back, and I saw an opportunity to use that for forest monitoring. And of course, not only for carbon. Initially, carbon wasn't on the forefront. It was more about how can you digitalize forest management. And we're 5 years on, and we're still working hard on that because it's a long road.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have this feeling that your forest is probably the most imaged, flown, surveyed piece of land, maybe in Germany. But on that note, it was fascinating when you mentioned, like, as Germans tied to that forest resource. I was on a intercontinental flight once, and I was working on a slide deck, and then it had like machines and IoT stuff, and there's a gentleman who kind of nudged my elbow, and he said like what do you do? So I described it to him, and then I was like, oh, what about you? Where are you from? He said, I'm from Germany. I'm like, oh, it's like, do you know anything about forestry? And he said, oh, and he was working on a SAP slide deck. He was a VP at SAP, and then he kind of loaded up this other slide deck, and it had all these forestry machines, and I said, what's going on? Like, you're with SAP, and he said, oh no, we have forests, like as Germans, like we have forests. It's like, I operate this land base. I got machines that I operate. I'm like, oh my God, it's crazy. So you mentioned that, it jogged my memory, where I was like, how is this possible? It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
tell me about.
not every German owns forest though, so I don't.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Full disclosure.
Cool. Absolutely. So tell me about how SKYLAB came to be. 2017, you said. I looked at the website. Couple folks, geoinformatics engineers. There's cloud, there's automation people, your CTO and stuff. But how did that come around? Like, did you know each other already beforehand, or is this more something you had to build the team up and find? And was that a struggle finding the right people to bring that vision you had to life?
Well, as an entrepreneur, it's sometimes funny how things happen. Initially, I had this idea and I wanted to test around a little bit and got myself a drone and flew and tried some software just to see how it works and if there's something there. But that wasn't very, very satisfying. So I asked, I tried to found a student, a geomatics engineering student who could help me a little bit. And he's still there, Simon, our employee number one and CTO now. And we tried around like, can you count trees? Can you automate that to some extent? Can you build a tree height model that gives reliable tree heights per tree or per stand? So there was a lot of trial and error at the beginning. And when I say beginning, I would say that was the first 2-3 years. We did a lot of project-based work. So the first few jobs all the products that we now have sprung out of project work that we did for customers. So there was our first customer was a small short rotation coppice plantation manager. They had roughly 1,000 hectares of poplar plantations, and they wanted a more full inventory instead of just sampling based. So we said, well, we can try it. We can fly a drone and give you heights, and we won't be able to count the trees, but because it's just too dense, it looks like grassland from the top, basically. So, and that worked. I mean, with some hiccups, but yes, we delivered. And the next customer was a big forest manager. They had a few thousand hectares up in Scotland, and they gave us the first piece of 500 hectares. And said, can you do something here? And we said, well, probably too big for a drone. We hire a plane in Scotland and found one who could do the job, and then count trees, tree height models, and so forth, and then deliver you a big share of the inventory. Unfortunately, the data coming back from the plane flight wasn't that good. So, but we had promised that we take care of that. So we sent 2 people out within 24 hours. They were in the forest in Scotland in the deep snow, taking some samples, trying to make sense of the poor data from the plane we had, because we wanted to get the next few thousand hectares. And we did a bit of, if you want, we cheated a little bit because we went there and did some sampling to make good for the poor data quality that we had. But we delivered in the time frame and in the quality that was required. And the next 3,000 hectares we did as planned, just on remote sensing data, and the customer was very happy both times. And the second time around, it was already what we had in mind for the first time. So out of that, more and more projects developed, and we found that we learned more about the requirements of our customers, and now we have a range of automated products that we can offer, aside from some customized work that we still do and continue doing, because that's a source of innovation for us to solve specific problems and learn what the customer may need, and out of that maybe something more standardized can emerge. So
yeah, well, I love it. I'm chuckling inside because you and I both know it's rarely a straight path. You have a great idea. There's going to be speed bumps, and at the end of the day, it's I would even say it's not even cheating. It's just you gotta hustle and get through whatever that speed bump is to achieve the outcome to get the next prize, if you will. So fascinating story. Let's dive into some of the projects. I know I suspect a lot of the listeners like, all right, you guys are warming up, chit chatting, but like, Albie's talked about his product, so let's get into it. So I know there's all AI. I've seen it's again. Well, let me ask you. Everyone says AI. what does it mean to you for the lay person? Because again, I've seen the bubble where, you know, I got machine learning, I got deep learning, I got AI, and everyone just says, oh, Albie, I do AI as well. What, describe to our listeners what AI means to you.
No, absolutely. I think it's become a buzzword loaded with lots of expectations. But in the end, to us, it means we have a not even a self-learning system, but a system that you can throw new data at, new information at, and based on what the system already has seen before, it can adapt and improve based on the existing and the new data. So I think AI, artificial intelligence, is a huge word. It's loaded with lots of meaning, but I think it's at the moment a lot simpler than that. But yes, there is some form of intelligence in there that means we don't know exactly how it improves, but it does, because it's a very well, you could also take a complex view and say it's a system of many neurons, actually many neural networks that inspire each other, learn from each other, and also they compete with each other for the best results. So yeah, taking a closer look, it gets complex and complicated, but and we develop, actually, we're not just using Amazon cloud service, Amazon Web Services ready made neural networks and AI. We develop it ourselves, so we know a bit more about what's happening inside, and we're able to speed up the learning curve and understand the results better. But there's always an element of black boxedness, if you like, because you never understand fully what's going on inside it. But yeah, so I don't know whether that was a simple explanation.
Well, I want to roll with the role play with you because I'm chuckling inside. You're using some words that just by saying them makes me know you've bumped into these thinking. But I guess for our listeners, you know, what we're hearing is more deep learning, not machine learning. So convoluted neural networks or CNN. So this is a little bit, much more than maybe the average Joe says, yeah, I use AI, but I ran R with a random forest with 4 lines of code. Yeah. I'm a AI specialist. This is different. But you mentioned black box. So I'm going to role play. I'm like, Albie, I'm a forester. Nice to meet you. I don't like black boxes. I'm a forester. I need to know the relationships between the ground, the land, you know, and my trees. It's like, I don't want this black box. Or if you can't explain it to me. I'm not going to trust you. Have you bumped into that type of comments, and what's your response to it?
Yeah, kind of, not exactly in those words, but yeah. And my answer to that is you've been dealing with a black box for the last however long you've been working in forestry by sampling maybe 1, 2, or 3% of your area, or maybe 5 or even 10. But the rest is your black box. You don't know what's between those sample plots. You're guessing, you're extrapolating, interpolating based on your experience, based on your deep knowledge of the stance and of your wider region and of forestry in general. I mean, there's a lot of intelligence going into that analysis and making sense of these sample plots. So, and I'm not saying AI will replace that. Our approach is we take away the boring side of forestry. So we take over that part. So don't bother measuring and counting trees. Don't bother trying to apply statistics to kind of get closer to reality. Let us look at the entire forest. So instead of 1 to 3%, we're sampling 100% of the forest and giving you a very detailed overview of the variation of. We provide stratification. We can look at individual trees or stands and provide you with the tools and the maps for precision forestry, so that you can make your decisions. You can focus your time and your efforts and your energy and your enthusiasm on making decisions, informed decisions from much better and much broader data. So yeah, that's taking away your black box, maybe replacing it with with another form of black box, but not in terms of not knowing the data, not knowing what's there, but not exactly knowing always how it came about. But I think we're probably overemphasizing the black box part of the AI, because we are really, because we develop it, we know what influences the results. So
right,
yeah,
absolutely. Well, at the end of the day, they're just tools, right? And they're tools to accomplish or solve some type of problem. So also a lot of foresters will say, I joke, I always say foresters don't want to be the first ones, but they also don't want to be the second or third or last ones. There's this weird, don't want to take the risk, but I also want to benefit from the people who are taking the risk. Thinking of the technology that you guys have developed, what's this, again, I don't want to ask you like who's the biggest customer unless you're comfortable sharing that, but what's typical size? Like you mentioned 1,000 hectares, largest projects, 1,000,000 hectare range, just to like convey to our listeners that you're doing this for real, not the, Albie's just doing a SKYLAB, they're just doing little pilot projects here and there. Can you share some thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. Maybe, I don't know when's a good time, but maybe we need to take one step back and describe in a few words what SKYLAB actually offers, because I think we kind of brushed over that, but I'll come to that maybe in a second. So in terms of our customers, it's really, it can be anywhere from really small privately owned forestry, but of course to the biggest, but of course our actual customers are usually the bigger forest managers. So right. I mean, one publicly very well-known example, because we've been working for them and with them for a long time, is ABP in Australia in the Green Triangle. They manage around 100,000 hectares of blue gum eucalyptus, and we've been doing their seedling survival monitoring for several years now. Initially not AI-based, but like with stupid algorithms, but now with very well-trained AI to automatically detect the seedlings and map the weeds and map the vitality of the seedlings for more precise replanting and weed management and fertilization. So but yeah, we're working with the very biggest. I mean, in Brazil or North America, you have companies companies managing millions or 1,000,000 hectares and more. So we are lucky to count them as our customers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into your products. So let's pull you into, you mentioned, let's get into products in terms of, I know on the website, there's the digital forester, ironically, and then we've had this podcast, but I get the impression there's the different types of forestry, parts of forestry. You mentioned seed lead counter versus the digital forester, and then some yield maps. So walk our listeners through in terms of, those, I think there's 5 or 6 products that you guys list, and short synopsis on each one and why they might be interested, or the value proposition or the problem you're solving with them. Take it away.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. And I sorry for pointing that out, that I wanted to come back to that, but it's not that I want to pitch every product. It's more about what the idea of what SKYLAB wants to achieve and where we see ourselves. So really think of SKYLAB as a platform that offers practical software and AI-based solutions for the forest managers. So it's a platform that offers a range of solutions from seedling survival monitoring, weed mapping, vitality analysis, very targeted thinning and harvest planning, harvest progress monitoring, ongoing vitality analysis and alarms if vitality drops in a certain region due to drought or stress or disease, even down to timber inventories and carbon accounting. So that's the basic concept. It's a platform offering software as a service. So you subscribe to the platform, and then you can look for the solutions for any of these challenges that I just described. So the seedling counter is the product that will help you monitor your seedling survival, and you basically subscribe to you take out a 1-year subscription for a certain volume of seedling counting, and then you have access to the platform. You upload the data, it gets quality checked. So drone data usually in that case. Gets automatically quality checked, you get automatic quality feedback. It gets processed very fast, and within 24 or 48 hours, you have the full seedling survival map, weed map, vitality map, and so forth. So it's that concept of there's a platform where you have certain digital solutions for your day-to-day forest inventory and forest monitoring problems.
Right.
So yeah, seedling counting is one, tree counting is another, which helps you in thinning and harvest planning. That can be coupled with individual tree vitality monitoring. Again, usually drone-based, sometimes plane-based. And then we have the more satellite-based products, or you can even think of it as apps on that platform. So it's all web-based, it's all super easy access. You don't need any GIS knowledge, which I think is extremely helpful, so that anybody without S3 ArcGIS or QGIS or whatever tools you may need for proper GIS analysis and mapping, anybody can access this. Whoever can use Google Maps will be able to use SKYLAB Cloud applications. So really, we want to make it as easy as possible for the forester out there, which is, for example, why we rely on standard DJI drone data, RGB data. So there's no need for complex multispectral data to be flown. We want to make this easy on the forester. Yeah, and then moving up the scale, kind of, we have satellite-based analysis, the change monitor, delivers solutions for vitality mapping, harvest progress monitoring, but also coming back to carbon, providing transparency on carbon projects. So you're a big corporate, you've just promised net carbon zero by 2025. How are you going to achieve that? Well, to some extent by carbon offsets. Some of this may probably come from forestry, but are you sure that forest is really out there in Panama or Colombia or wherever it may be? And here's a satellite-based tool to give you full transparency. You can check and you can show to your stakeholders, yes, we've checked it, the forest is there and it's still growing and it's there. So it's these kind of problem solving apps that we make available there. So
yeah. Very cool. So I'm less bashful, Albie. I want you to promote your products and stuff. So we can talk all we want. So what I heard, just to paraphrase, is we don't need fancy, drone technology, RGB. You then upload it into the Skyworks cloud, and then it does its magic. And then in 24 to 48 hours, you get something back to answer a problem that you have. And you also have the satellite offering that, I guess in this case, still goes through SKYLAB Cloud, but because you're provisioning, it's not the customer tasking provisioning, you do it for them. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. And maybe there's also maybe something to that's important about satellite data. I mean, it's kind of becoming more and more important in forest monitoring, and I mean, many people start using it more. What we found was extremely surprising is some of this. I can say a planet scope is something we use a lot. That's 3-meter resolution. It's really, really cool because you really have almost daily data availability. You can go back as far as even 2014 to build time series to look at historic developments. So that's the cool part, high resolution both in time and space, but then when you look at the data, it varies a lot in quality. So to even make that comparable, there's standard offers from companies like Planet to say, well, we've got base maps and you can compare them, but there's so much corrections going into this data that it actually falsifies the results from an analytics point of view. Okay. So we had to develop our own kind of quality improvement process to take the uncorrected data from the source, which is cool. I'm not bashing or I'm not bad-mouthing Planet. I think they're doing a great job, but I think to get like really good vegetation analytics, you need to make improvements to the data, which we are doing. And then we have a really comparable time series and can really understand what's going on in the forest and how much is it changing, what is changing, and map that and quantify that and highlight hotspot problem regions. So you don't have to fly hundreds of thousands of hectares to analyze your visually analyze your forest health, which they do in Australia, for example. I don't know about Canada, but I know a lot of flying is going on without any actual data collection, but more visual inspection. And I think that can be done more efficiently by satellite data, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, so I'll role play again. Like Albie, it's like every forester talks about LiDAR, and I hear about this radar and stuff like that from space and stuff. Doesn't sound like you really need it for the solutions that you're offering, or do they really take your accuracy level higher than where they are? And maybe comment about the accuracy, because again, the foresters who may not be familiar with SKYLAB are probably maybe thinking, oh, I've heard this before, like how good is good, right? So maybe two pieces of questions. Can you comment with the accuracy of your tree kit, your products, I guess, your solutions? And then what does LiDAR and radar mean for you as a business? Does it really help or take what you do to the next level?
Sure. Okay. Well, yeah. Quick comments on the accuracy. It depends a little bit, A, on the product that you're looking at, and B, on what's your benchmark you're comparing against. So on seedling counting, for example, we have really comparable data. So that means a sample plot marked out, so it's also visible in the aerial data. So we can compare exactly how many seedlings have we found and how many seedlings were found on the ground. And we can achieve accuracies of 99, 100% there.
Wow.
And in more tricky conditions with lots of weeds, with maybe sometimes suboptimal data quality, it could drop to 90% or even below that. But usually we around the 95% mark or above.
So really good.
Really good. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
And on satellite data or satellite analysis, it's a bit harder to quantify, but so we've done a lot of mapping of areas of really severe damage, like bark beetle damage in northern Germany. It was a huge problem in the last 5 years and will continue to be a huge problem. So you're really looking at 80% loss of forest cover in some areas over 5 years. So mapping that out and quantifying that precisely was one of the tasks, and we were able to accurately map 50 square meters gaps, very precisely, comparing that to what we see from other initiatives publicly funded, like the government in Germany has funded some developments. They get 60% accuracy at half a hectare. So 5,000 square meters, 60% accuracy. We're getting above 90% on 50 square meters. So I don't know how to compare that in terms of, but yeah, it's 2 orders of magnitude better, I would say, at least. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, there's some areas where it's trickier. So you mentioned LiDAR, for example. I'm not a fan of LiDAR, but I see the use cases where it comes in really handy. I'm wondering sometimes why people spend so much on LiDAR. Photogrammetry can do the same job and you get better data because you get color information and higher resolution. If you have simple plantations on not too mountainous terrain, you don't need LiDAR, I think. So you can get the same kind of data for a quarter of the price. And we've done a lot of comparisons like that in Australia, for example, with very, very good results. But yeah, we've used LiDAR a lot in cases where the canopy was more complex and very closed and the terrain was very hilly or mountainous. Then LiDAR is the tool of choice, for sure. You mentioned space-based LiDAR and radar. That's something that I think is lacking, is a useful 3D analytics tool for forestry from space that's easily available. There's radar we tested and found it. It's more of a 0-1 kind of result. Is there a canopy? Is there not a canopy? But you're not gonna get any measurements out of that, really. And then we looked at JEDI, the ISS-based LiDAR instrument, which got us really excited at the beginning. But then we learned, well, it's only going to ever take a footprint of 1 point of that 1 point, and it's not going to revisit that point. And it's a 25-meter radius, as far as I remember. So yes, it gives you an indication, and I think it's super helpful for kind of global forest cover analytics, and relating that to some of the Sentinel-2 based global forest mapping tools. And it's going to make a lot of sense in terms of what's the global forest carbon stock, what's happening there. For that,
Absolutely.
It's great. For our more stand or asset based analytics, it's not good. It's not precise enough, because the forester you were just role playing will not be happy with the results from that. So
absolutely. And speaking of that, you're bang on, right? For our listeners, you fly airborne LiDAR, your hotspot, your footprint's 25 centimeters, and you get excited about Jedi, and here, you got a 25-meter footprint. That's night and day. Like tackling different problems. I would suggest there. So thinking of, great stories here. Cost is often for, again, you've been at this long enough, Albie. It's like, is this really expensive and whatnot? For our listeners, you've mentioned, you're not using the more expensive technologies, or you will use them for the right environment where it's needed. You're fitting the right tool for the right place there. But from a cost point of view, can you shed any light for our listeners in terms of what they can expect if they call you, or is it really one of those, it depends on where you are, the terrain, or is there some metric there that you guys use for your model?
For the standard products like the seeding counter, tree counter, or the change monitor, we have standard pricing, yes. And you will not be surprised if you hear that. It does depend on the size of your project, of your area that you want monitored. So, but to give you a benchmark. We're looking at, just for the naked seedling counting, seedling survival monitoring, you're looking around about at $2 per hectare, $2 US. That would be, well, that does make sense, right? In the US, we're asking for $1 per acre roughly. So everywhere else, we're usually charging euros, or sometimes Brazilian reais, but so let's say, around, just as a rough benchmark figure, $2 per hectare is a good orientation. It'll, if you want wheat and vitality, that adds a little bit, but then if you increase your hectares, then it'll drop from there. So just a
well, it's awesome, because often, as we do this, just having a baseline to start from, right, it sets the expectation. So when someone calls you after this, they'll be like, I know the baseline, like I'm expecting, like we're within our budget potentially, per se. So that's awesome. So looking at our time here, go ahead, Albie.
No, I was just going to try. I just realized maybe it's worth putting that into perspective, because of course, you want to look at cost savings, right? So instead of going out and taking samples, you're now going to fly a drone, which costs you some time, but much less. And flying the drone is super easy. We instruct our customers how to fly it. You program the drone, and it'll do the flight itself. But or you can hire third-party operators, of course, which again is a little costlier. But the main use case is not saving costs. Yes, of course, you want to save costs and you want to get more data, but the big advantage is, because you're getting more data and more precise data, you will make your stands more productive. You know where to replant, and you're not getting one single figure for the stand of survival, like 93% survival. So it's below the benchmark, I should be replanting. You know exactly where the gaps are, and you could bring it from 97 to 99% survival, because you know exactly where to go and do the replanting or the weed management. So it's increasing the productivity. That's the important longer term bottom line of these solutions. But you want to save time and costs as well in the first place. So just putting those $2 in perspective a little bit more.
For sure. I love it. Like, using data to drive decisions, right? And or insights, per se. It's exactly what you said. So thinking of looking forward, want to kind of shift us a little bit. So folks have heard about SKYLAB technology, really powerful, exciting. I'm even learning lots as I'm listening to Albie. It's so cool. What's SKYLAB looking at? One, because again, digital forester, we always talk about trends and what we're seeing. what are you excited about the next year and maybe 3 years out? Are there certain things, is there something in the AI space that we commoners or lay people that don't live in that space every day that we haven't heard about and you're super excited about? Or is there some other macro level trend or even micro, maybe, embedded in Germany or elsewhere, but maybe share some thoughts in terms of what does the future look like for you from a technology point of view in terms of what SKYLAB does?
Well, no, I think we as far as I can see, we've covered the main technology buzzwords and developments. I think we've only just started. We trained our neural networks to see to know what a eucalyptus or a pine seedling looks like, and we don't need to do a lot of retraining or additional training. We can just receive customer data and upload it into, or the customer uploads it into the cloud, and it'll be able to distinguish the seedlings from other vegetation automatically. So we've come a long way in about a year, a bit over a year of developing this. So if that's possible in this time frame, a lot else will be possible, right? So I think recognizing patterns of change is the next kind of frontier that we're going to be looking at, in more on satellite-based monitoring, but also looking at individual tree or seedling vitality to go beyond just discoloration or size of the canopy, to take all information into account that's within the data and looking at this. But of course, the advantage of satellite-based data is that you can do frequent revisits and even do a monthly or even bi-weekly analysis of the data. And taking this, I think I'm hopeful that combining some of the 3D data points, like let's say you do a photogrammetry or LiDAR flight every few years, and then but relating that to satellite two-dimensional but multispectral data that you monitor on a let's say on a monthly basis. So you can factor out or in, whichever way you want to look at it, the seasonal variations, and learn how the growth patterns show up in two-dimensional data. I think that's coming. I'm sure we can connect the dots and make a lot, or provide a lot more insights. I'm not saying we're going to replace all that monitoring, even the more high resolution three-dimensional monitoring, but knowing in more detail the ongoing developments and changes, I think that's going to be a huge thing, and we're working on that. So I don't know whether that's around the corner next year or whether it takes 3 more years, but I'm pretty sure that'll be there in the foreseeable future.
Well, given your track record, Albie, with your first startup there exiting this one, it's like, yeah, I'll give you maybe 3 months to come back to us with the new technology offerings for site. Yeah, you mentioned, just out of curiosity, you mentioned multi-spec, right? And only needing the RGB, and then just in your comments there, thinking of our listeners from the EO space, hyperspectral of value, or is that in that category? It's just too many bands. It's costly. We don't need it. Or is that part of the short term of, yeah, there might be something there to augment that vitality component? What do you think?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't have an answer for that. I mean, we are working with Planet Scope data, which usually only have 4 bands, which is kind of narrow. We'd like to have more. Sentinel has 8, so that's really good. But then you have 10 meter resolution instead of 3, so that's 11 times less sharp in terms of imagery. For the time being, that's pretty good. Hyperspectral, I think the spectral resolution is sometimes overloaded with too many expectations. The thing is, yes, you can probably detect something that is really hidden in the bands. Like a specific, like maybe, for example, finding a specific disease, or because of a specific reaction, or of a very precise species differentiation. But spectral signals are so much influenced by time of day, season, age of the vegetation you're looking at, the sensor itself. So I'm not very optimistic that Hyperspectral will be able to help us in the more kind of routine type of monitoring for very specific questions, for a very specific point in time, for a very specific region. Yes, probably, but to be honest, that's not the kind of space we're working in. We're more interested in broader solutions that help everybody. Yeah.
For sure.
So for us, a few bands are enough. So
right. So lots of successes to date. What in your seat as CEO of SKYLAB in 5-year time frame? What does success look from your seat in terms of SKYLAB? Where do you want to see it grow? Like world domination of this space, or what's your vision?
Of course.
What drives Albie, right?
No, I think there's two perspectives there. Of course, one is SKYLAB as a team, as a company. I want SKYLAB to grow. I want SKYLAB to be successful and earning money. We are a startup. We're a technology startup. We are currently preparing our next investment round. So, of course, in 5 years' time, I'm hoping that we will be profitable, very profitable. So that's the inside perspective. But for that to happen, and that's obviously therefore the much more important perspective is that we provide solutions to our customers that make their lives a lot easier. Solutions that are so easy and seamless to use that there's no need to think about it, whether should I do this, should I not. Digitalization should be standard in forest industry in the next
Absolutely.
3 to 5 years, and I think making it simple, making it accessible, making it integrating it into the forester's daily life, so it becomes natural. That's a goal that I want to achieve, and I think that's why we're focusing on simplifying things in terms of lowering the barriers of being able to use it. Meaning easy to use drones off the shelf, easy to use standard DJI drones as data sources for the seed encounter, a web-based cloud service with WebGIS, so that there's no you don't need to be an expert in GIS to use this. So those are. I'm not saying. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just saying foresters aren't sophisticated enough to use this. I'm just saying why you don't need to be. Not every forester needs to be an expert in GIS tools and data acquisition to be able to use this. Everybody can do this. So
absolutely,
that's the goal, and that's what I'm working towards.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely hear you loud and clear. Yeah, in my career working with foresters, they're some of the most resourceful, curious,
absolutely,
hackers themselves in their own right ways. Just the skill set they have, how they view the world is just incredible. And I think that's just a function of forestry being a very complex space. A lot of people don't appreciate the complexities involved with that. So thinking as we're looking at winding down, Albie, what are some pro tips you would give to foresters looking to start this journey with SKYLAB? Like, is there a common pattern, or if a listener is going like, man, it's like I want to connect with SKYLAB and stuff, and I want to come prepared to just kind of jumpstart? Over the years, have you found like there's a recipe that just is consistent, or is it really we got to do a discovery call, understand what you need, or what can they bring to the table before that first meeting?
Yeah, no, I obviously I see it as our job to be able to put our future potential customers into the position of being able to use SKYLAB products and work with us. So I usually the first round of discussions is around accuracy, reliability, and what can we expect, and that's why we usually do two important things. One is if it's about high resolution stuff like seeding and tree counting and weed mapping and vitality mapping, then you usually want to fly a drone or find a plane operator. So it's discussing what's the right tool to get the data and how do I get that, and so preparing most of the time customers will come to us and say, we have a drone, we've been using it for taking some videos or taking some shots, and now we want to take to the next level. And then we help them in operating the drone so the data is good enough or really good so that they can be analyzed. So that's part one. And the second part is we totally understand that if you see something new, you want to test it. You're not gonna just blindly subscribe to it and say it's going to be okay, or just trust it. You want to test it and see for yourself. So we offer, of course, test periods. So if you subscribe, you get to use it for a couple of months or maybe even 3 months, and then only if you're happy, then you actually start paying. So there's that element of trial, but I also invite the people who try this to. What we learned is that it's sometimes hard to compare what you're used to in terms of sampling with 100% coverage. So those two data sets are not comparable, at least not as they stand. So you need to look into it in more detail, and because our data or our results are deviating from whatever they've been sampling, doesn't mean our data is wrong. It's probably we're looking at two different realities, and that needs to kind of sink in sometimes. So, but yeah, that's a process, and that's usually what's happening in those 2-3 months, and then most have stayed with us. So I invite everybody to give us a call and or write to us and get started by testing us. So
So last question for my end, Albie, is obviously we're still in this COVID-19 pandemic. I'm not sure what Germany's like. I think like in Ontario, largest province in Canada, we're reopening to 50% capacity on some things at the end of the month. But was COVID good for business for SKYLAB or bad? And before you answer that, some of our listeners who may not be in the forestry space might go like, why is he asking this? For certain sectors, COVID was actually good. When we think about the technology space, it was actually a boom, and albeit markets now are doing something completely different, but we won't get into that. But for SKYLAB, what was the COVID or our ongoing COVID days? What was that like for business for you?
I guess I'm lacking the long track record like you have with your company and in this space to be able to compare how business developed or not developed due to COVID. But I think there's pros and cons. I mean, one good thing is that it's possible to meet. Everybody's prepared to meet like we are meeting now and discuss. I mean, we used Zoom before to meet with Brazilian or Chilean customers, and we started our business in Australia like this. So I personally have not been to Australia on business since I started SKYLAB, even though we have lots of customers there. So, but that was even before COVID. So maybe Australians are very open to this. Thanks, Australia. Great job. It still takes personal meetings to build trust. I think that's true today, and I think the cancellation of a lot of the trade fairs has certainly not been good for developing a business. So
absolutely,
well,
for sure,
it's there. Can't help it, but I think we've weathered this storm quite well, and we emerged stronger than before.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully we're all globally at the tail end of things. So Albie, I want to thank you for joining us on this podcast. I learned a lot. As I said, I was really excited to learn more about what SKYLAB has plans. I've been watching you guys on social, cool stuff coming out, and just fascinated by it. So I wanted to thank you for carving out part of your day to speak with us. I'm hoping our listeners enjoyed the conversation that we had. And for those who want to reach out to you and SKYLAB, what's the best way? Facebook, LinkedIn, website, email? What's the easiest way?
Yeah, the easiest way is it's hello@skylabglobal.com is our kind of standard email, but you can also write to me directly at Ruffer, which is RUFFER at skylabglobal.com, or check out our LinkedIn feed at the SKYLAB Global LinkedIn corporate site and join us there. And give us a call. I think it's easier by email. I won't spell out the number now, so you'll find us, and then we can introduce you to the SKYLAB cloud and get you started very quickly.
Very cool. Well, I might even be calling that number to play around with it myself. So for our listeners, there you have it. That's the best way. Got direct contact email for the CEO of SKYLAB. You can reach out directly to Albie to get more information. So Albie, once again, thanks so much for joining. I hope you had fun on this conversation. I certainly did. And I look forward to talking more and maybe at some point meeting in person and seeing what we can do.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Kevin, for having me here.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks, Albie.
Thank you.